In an industry dominated by bold personalities and dramatic leadership styles, Sundar Pichai built power through something far less visible. Calm precision. Born in Chennai, India, and raised in a modest household without access to early computing technology, he developed an unusual strength from a young age, an exceptional memory, and a deep analytical mindset. Long before Silicon Valley ever knew his name, he was already wired to recognize patterns and think in systems. After earning a scholarship to Stanford University and later working at McKinsey, he joined Google in 2004 as a product manager. At that time, Google was primarily a search engine, growing fast but still defining its future. Few could have predicted that this quiet engineer would eventually lead not just Google, but its parent company, Alphabet. During the most transformative technological shift of the century, artificial intelligence. When Sundar Pichai proposed that Google should build its own web browser, many inside the company questioned the idea. At the time, browsers were dominated by Microsoft's Internet Explorer, and creating a new one seemed unnecessary and risky. But Pichai saw something others didn't. He understood that the browser would become the gateway to the internet, and whoever controlled that gateway would shape the future of user experience, data flow, and ultimately power. In 2008, Google launched Chrome. It was faster, cleaner, and radically more stable than competitors. Within a few years, Chrome became the world's most widely used browser, solidifying Google's control over how billions of people access the web. This success elevated Pichai's influence internally, proving he wasn't just an engineer. He was a strategist who understood long-term dominance. Following the success of Chrome, Pichai was given control over more products: Gmail, Google Maps, Google Drive, and eventually Android. Each expansion wasn't accidental. It reflected growing trust in his ability to manage complex ecosystems. In 2015, Google restructured under a new parent company, Alphabet, co-founded by Larry Page and Sergey Brin. During this shift, Pichai was appointed CEO of Google. It was a defining moment. Unlike the founders, he was not building from scratch. He was inheriting an empire. His challenge was no longer innovation alone. It was stability, regulation, global politics, and strategic direction. In 2019, he became CEO of Alphabet as well, officially becoming one of the most powerful executives in global technology. The real test of Sundar Pichai's leadership emerged with the explosive rise of artificial intelligence. As AI models began reshaping industries, Google faced unprecedented competition, particularly from companies like OpenAI and Microsoft. Critics argued that Google, once the undisputed innovation leader, had become cautious. The launch of ChatGPT triggered internal urgency across Google's divisions. Under Pichai's leadership, Google accelerated its AI strategy, integrating large language models into search and launching Bard, later rebranded as Gemini. The stakes were enormous. Search advertising generates the majority of Google's revenue, and AI has the potential to redefine how information is delivered, possibly disrupting Google's own business model. Pichai's task is not simply to compete in AI. It is to reinvent Google without destroying the foundation that made it powerful. Sundar Pichai does not dominate headlines with dramatic speeches or controversial statements. His leadership style is measured, diplomatic, and long-term oriented. In a world obsessed with charismatic founders, he represents a different model of power: institutional, strategic, and adaptive. The AI era demands not only innovation but restraint, responsibility, and global negotiation. Governments are watching. Regulators are pressuring. Competitors are advancing rapidly. And at the center of it all stands a man who rarely raises his voice, yet controls the direction of technologies used by billions. The question is no longer whether Sundar Pichai can lead Google. The question is whether he can guide it through the most disruptive technological transformation of the modern era without losing its dominance. For the first time in decades, Google's dominance in search looked vulnerable. The narrative shifted almost overnight. Had Google fallen behind in AI despite years of research? Internally, the pressure intensified. Engineers who had long worked on advanced language models suddenly faced public scrutiny. Investors demanded clarity. Employees demanded urgency. Sundar Pichai responded not with panic, but with structural acceleration. He declared a company-wide AI priority, reorganized teams, and fast-tracked product releases. What outsiders saw as hesitation was, in reality, the weight of responsibility. Google's scale meant that every AI deployment had legal, ethical, and financial consequences. Unlike a startup, Google could not afford reckless speed. Search is not just a product for Google. It is the engine that funds everything else. Advertising revenue from search represents the core of Alphabet's financial power. But generative AI threatens the traditional search model. Instead of showing a list of links, AI can produce direct answers. That shift sounds convenient for users, but it disrupts the advertising ecosystem built around clicks. Sundar Pichai faces a paradox. To lead the AI future, Google must potentially cannibalize its own most profitable product. Under his direction, Google began integrating AI-generated summaries directly into search results while experimenting with new ad formats within AI responses. This is not simply product evolution. It is business model surgery performed in real time. Few CEOs in history have had to redesign a trillion-dollar revenue machine while keeping it running at full speed. Technology leadership today is no longer just about innovation. It is geopolitical. AI sits at the center of global competition between the United States and China. Governments debate regulation, data privacy, and national security. Europe pushes for stricter AI governance. Meanwhile, emerging markets demand affordable access to digital infrastructure. As CEO of Alphabet, Sundar Pichai operates on a global chessboard. He must balance regulatory compliance in the European Union, political tensions in Asia, and antitrust scrutiny in the United States. Every AI release is examined not only by users, but by lawmakers. His leadership requires diplomacy as much as technical vision. In many ways, he is not only steering a company, he is navigating the future of digital power itself. Unlike the early days of Silicon Valley, when speed and disruption were celebrated without restraint, today's technology leaders are judged by responsibility. AI systems can influence elections, shape public opinion, and impact millions of jobs. Under Pichai's watch, Google has emphasized AI principles focused on safety, fairness, and accountability. Critics argue the company moves too cautiously. Others argue it moves too fast. That tension defines modern tech leadership. Sundar Pichai's challenge is not to be the loudest visionary, but the most stable architect. His style, calm, analytical, long horizon, may be exactly what an AI-driven world requires. History will not judge Sundar Pichai for building Google. That was the founder's achievement. It will judge him for transforming it. If he successfully leads Alphabet through the AI revolution while preserving its dominance, he will be remembered as the executive who redefined big tech for the intelligent era. If he fails, it will mark one of the fastest strategic reversals in corporate history. The AI era is still unfolding. The technology is evolving. Competition is accelerating. And at the center of it all stands a leader whose greatest strength may not be boldness, but balance. The next decade will determine whether Sundar Pichai becomes merely a steward of Google's past or the architect of its future.